Welcome back to this week's episode of the Tracy L. Clark Show. I want to welcome all of our returning guests and our new listeners. And it's so great to have you. We are walking into a new earth. It's been a little bit crazy out there, and it's going to get more crazy. So I always say, check out tracylclark.com. There's a lot of free resources to help you. But it's also about having to take the action. You can listen to things all day long and you can read books, but what we like to do is give you tools that help clean your field, get you ready, and get you motivated. If you missed the interview with Jeremy Wiseman from Guildhall Wealth, which was fabulous on 6:40 a.m. Toronto, actually, it's going to be going out on the newsletter. So make sure you get that, because if you have not taken that time, this is why we love Jeremy, to prepare for your finances, you're going to see we are going through a massive shift. So lots of education, lots of information, and now is the time. Now is the time to get right with the God of your understanding, get right with what's happening in your world, because you are going to see a lot of tension over the next few months into the next year. You're going to see a lot of the old hanging on as the new is rising up, as we're waking up, we're looking at new ways. And that's where you got to go. I always say the light is one. We just got to kind of get through the mess, but we got to stay together and we got to grow together and empower and uplift each other. So this is why I'm so excited about today's show, because we have a special guest. I'm going to say Ronnie because I can't call her Roanna. From Neo-Paws. I've known her forever. It's Ronnie. I'm like, yay. And what we're talking about today is your pets. Everybody knows with our cats and our dogs and your birds and your snakes and your reptiles, whatever you have, our pets are so intuitive and they're so connected to us. And the one thing about your pet, if you forget, it always loves you unconditionally. Pets do not know how to judge. They love unconditionally. And during this time of great change and transformation, it's so important that we learn what's happening with our animals so we can relieve some of the stress off them. I always say, if you have followed me for years, I always say, if your animal gets sick, you can thank them for taking it off you, because this is what they do. So Ronnie, I have to call you Ronnie. I'm sorry. That's how I know you. That's how I love you. That's what we're calling you. Welcome.
Hello, Tracy. This is so exciting to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, you know what? With all the change going on, and you and I were talking earlier and, discussing that, like the animals are going through this transition with us. It's not like, whether we're at home now and they're like, wait a minute, why are my people home? You're supposed to be out so I can play today without you. What are you noticing with the animals right now? Because I really, even though we've been going through this winter is going to be a lot more intense than what we've experienced. And I want to make sure our fur babies are okay. What have you noticed through this transition this year?
Well, I have 2 cats and a dog. And I think the most important thing is getting out there, right? So you have to continue your rituals of walking, of taking care of them, properly feeding them. And I think once you do that and not, allowing your emotions to be too overwhelming around them. And once we do that, then the dogs and cats are okay. As long as we're okay, they're okay. And it is, I know we've seen videos about when the parents are home or when they're not home and what the dogs do together. I don't think they really, really do that. But I really do know that they really appreciate you being around just as much. And I think it's going to be a shock if everyone goes back to work, and they're going to be like, what happened? So I actually think this is a really good time for people to really connect with their animals. Because when they're gone to work, T, for so long in a day, nobody gets trained. They don't get the love that they need and the comfort and the company. Dogs are very feeling animals, and so are cats. We think it's okay to leave cats alone. They're independent. They're fine to a degree, but all animals, birds, reptiles, they all like to have that contact with the human that owns them. So I think this is a really powerful time, and people should really be taking advantage of really training and educating their pets now.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
themselves. Yeah.
And
Sorry.
themselves. And like you say with the cats, I work from home, you know that. I'm always there. So my cats are with me all the time. So when I go out, they literally they're waiting by the door when I come in, like, Mom, how come you left so long? And now we're bringing a puppy in. It's one of these new spaces. But you've had Neopause for a long time. You're passionate. When I first met you, I was floored. You had 5 dogs, none of them on leash. You're walking into an elevator, like, they're following you, they're sitting down. You know, you have such a passion to help animals. What sparked that?
Um, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. I've always loved animals. I've always collected animals, and collected in the sense of, you
Collected.
know, right. Well, I'd go out and find tadpoles, and then I would leave them where they were. But I was always very curious about the animal kingdom. I brought a snake home one day. So that was great. My mother and my aunt just hated that. I have a feeling I should turn off my, can you hear that?
I wouldn't like it either because I don't like snakes. I don't like
Right.
reptiles.
I know. I'm closing all my Facebook things
All
because
good.
can you hear it come through?
Probably a little bit, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's
Okay,
okay.
that's good. I just don't
No,
want to be interrupting your talk and my talk, and you know.
it's all good.
Anyway, so uh, yeah, I think it was almost a progressive thing. When I was a child, my mother said no pets. Okay, so she was not a
Wow.
cat or a dog lover, and I adhered. Except for one time, she went to Argentina, and I brought home a dog from the pound, and she came home, and my grandmother was. I was with my grandmother at the time, and I was so excited, and I had this first dog. Anyway, needless to say, my mother was not impressed, but I took care of it very well, and then I brought a cat home from Horton Tree Farm on a school trip because it was abandoned, and so that's kind of what I've always been doing. I really believe strongly in rescue the dogs. There are so many dogs out there, unfortunately. Too many home breeders, just
Well,
people
can
like
we
you and me
talk about
breeding.
that like for a
Yeah.
minute? Because during the start of all of this year, like everything kind of got cleaned out. Everybody had a dog. My concern is okay, and like to me, my animals are like they're like my kids. I have kids, they are with me. You do whatever you can, but so many people seem to have been getting these pets. But my when I look at it energetically, my worry is, and it is a worry, it's a concern because I
Hmm.
love my pets, is how many of those are going to be returned because now all of a sudden it's work, and what that does to the
Yeah.
pet emotionally.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I
Like,
find it very easy for people to give up their animals whenever they don't want them anymore, right? So they just, well, because it's also our our system allows that to happen. So the Humane Society will take the animals when you surrender them, and most
yeah,
societies around the globe, or at least in North America, do. I remember when I was in Vegas once, and I went into the sanctuary there, and I swear, in the 2 times that I was visiting, there must have been 5 people dropping off and surrendering their animals. And it's almost like, oh, here's the leash, here's my dog, and thanks very much for taking it for me, because I just can't monetarily or physically keep it. And I think this is really, the conversation is not about, it's the end result, but it's also the now. And the now is, what are you going to do to prepare yourself properly to have a pet? And this is the point. If you're
yeah,
on a low income budget, if you don't have the time, if you don't have the know how and are not willing to get it, and can't afford to have it, then don't get an animal. And again, it goes back to being very selfish, right? So it's that whole, oh, me, I need, and we're not getting it from humans, right? And especially through COVID. And so now what you're going to do, you're going to have it, with these beautiful creatures who surround you in your home. So the point is that, yes, animals are great for us because they take away the stress. It's unconditional love, but it can also be very stressful, because if you're not
yeah.
taking care of your animal properly, and your animal is either nervous or misbehaved, or not getting it, or peeing in the house too much, it just means that you're not doing the proper job. I mean, that's the bottom line. If your animal, it's like your children. If your child or your animal are not well, then that means you're not doing a good job. So we really have to look at that, again, starting with ourselves. how well are we and what are we willing to give to another person, another being, right? It's like that. What do we say in relationships? If you don't love yourself, if you're not who you want to project and to have in your life, then you're not going to, it's not healthy to have it, right? Bottom
Well,
line.
exactly. And then you start attracting people, the reflection of things you need to change inside. And then
Well,
people are like,
that's
well,
it.
it's that person. It's like, no, inside. And it's that whole saying too around sort of the dogs and the children are a reflection of their owner and their parents. Exactly. And I love you said this because it's so true. Energetically, they're mimicking back things that you also need to look at, and
Yeah.
things you really need to take responsibility for. And you made a great point, and so many people don't think about this, is can you, it's like having a child, can you afford to have that little baby, that little being? Like I could not, like I said, I couldn't imagine. If my cat even got out, I would be freaking, because we adopted him right from a rescue. Cloud, he has no, they got rid of his claws, everything, he can't defend himself, right? So I couldn't imagine. But so it's that love, it's that care. And they also feel that stress if if you can't provide for them, if you can't train them properly. And so often, like you said, people are mad at the animal for peeing in the house. Well, you're not paying attention. Why are you mad? Like you have to take that responsibility. I think there's too many programs that just show puppies and dogs and cats, and they come home and it's all perfect. They don't show you.
That's what
It's
it
like,
is.
yeah, and it's like relationships, right? Like people say, wow, your relationship's so beautiful, but they, or your business they love, but they don't see the work behind the scenes that we put in to make sure that happens. And I love that you said that about the pets, because I think that's 101. It's like, can you afford it? Will you take the time? And will you show up, and will you train it? And I know you've trained a lot of dogs. You've trained you have had a lot of cats. You groom them. You have little shoes for them to make sure the salt's not in their feet. Like you've really encompassed. And what would you say for people that have just gotten animals this year? What would you say would be their number one? So they're like, I'm gung ho, I'm ready to go. They, rescued it. They got their, whatever, they got their baby. What would you say would be their first? So they said, I can afford it, and here I go. What would be their next step? What would you recommend to make sure they have the best start with their little, so, because we don't want any more animals in rescue centers, no more.
Well, a spay and neuter your dog would be a great thing. Don't think that it's okay for you to breed them. Okay, I know you're in love with your animal. You've got this
Yeah.
beautiful animal in front of you, and you think that, hey, I want to have 10 more of these guys, or at least one more, and then I'll give away the rest of the puppies.
Wow.
There's a lot of repercussion that comes with that, right? That's very sometimes very unhealthy for the dog, taking away her puppies, or cats, whatever pet you have. Also selling them to the right home. Now people are thinking, oh, what a great way to make money. Everyone's low on money. So, we're using our animals for that. So we have to be very careful that we don't get into this cycle of thinking that we're God and we can start breeding these pets, right? This is not, it's not healthy. I mean, I know we have breeders. We shut down the puppy mills for that reason too, right? And also it's very costly to have, breeding your own animals, and it's also
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So let's get that out of our heads. So spay and neuter when you can.
And then, oh, we have a froze there. I think it's important. Oh, there you are. You froze for a second. So we'll
Oh,
bring
yeah.
you back. Yeah, there we are. It's okay.
Do you want me to keep talking?
Yes, please. Yes. Yes.
Okay, I
It's
can
all
keep talking.
good. Well, because it's
No, but
really important.
yeah, it is. And I mean, a lot of people say I can't afford to spay and neuter. Okay, so another going back, but it's okay if you have this animal, and
Yeah.
an animal, sometimes the animals just fall upon people, right? Sometimes the animal's parents pass away, and then they have to be taken care of from someone, and maybe that someone who's closest to the animal is not, cannot afford certain things. Always know that the humane societies and the SPCAs are always willing to help with lower cost veterinary bills and spay and neuters. So that's one thing. The next thing is get to know where you have the dog parks, around your area. So you definitely want to be able to figure out where are you going to take your dog. It is not enough to walk your dog on a leash 24/7. The dog needs to socialize. Remember that even cats sometimes, depending on their personalities, are pack animals. So they like to travel and they like to smell and be around things that are like them, just like just like humans. So it is exactly the same thing. Then the most important thing too is, what are you going to feed your dog, right? So we have to get into a plan of what. Now I have to say, okay, no offense to anyone, but the breeders, I find, the breeders are kind of like low budget people, I find, most of the time. And they're pushing out these dogs. They're feeding them only dry food because it's very convenient for them. They're vaccinating the dogs, also become ill inside because of the vaccinations that they're being given. Sometimes the mother passes along problems and germs and bacteria or whatever have you to the puppy. Like a lot of times I hear, my dog is allergic to chicken. Okay, my dog is allergic to this or that. And I'm like, that's really weird. Are they allergic to things in the wild? Like, I don't know. I mean, but what my answer is because they probably need a liver cleanse. Okay, so they have, there are companies that do really great liquid formulas for animals, and you can just give it to them, insert it through their food or within a little syringe in their mouth, and that will clean their liver. That will clean their body, because remember, even for humans, the liver is the most important, right?
Sure
and
is.
then they'll be okay to eat things, and you can cook for them, or pick up raw, freeze dried raw. But it's very important as a puppy that they receive high protein meals. Okay, so these dry foods, I don't care how high protein they say, it's dry. There's no moisture in the food. Okay, so just like humans, we can't be eating chips all day, or crackers, right?
That's right. You need lots of liquids, lots of liquids.
Yeah, lots of liquids and lots of vitamins inside. The meats, you can, if they like vegetables, you can cook them, feed them raw. So it's a trial and error with the animal, right? What is it like? What will it eat? And you just kind of go from there.
I love what you said about the liver, and people forget this. So energetically, the liver of our body, and it is the same in the animals. Like, people forget this. It's exactly the same. The liver is the highest vibrational, not only for cleaning toxins, but cleans every emotion out of a human body. People think it's just anger. And I'm like, no, it's every emotion. And when the liver frequency drops, that's where it drops first. That's when a person or an animal gets sick, actually. And people don't realize they run on the same line. So if your animal's getting sick or you're getting sick, it always stops with a vibrational shift downwards in the liver, because the liver is detoxing. And I didn't even know you could do a liver detox for an animal too. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So if your dog or cat or any animal are having
Yeah.
any kind of digestive problems or any other problems, start by cleaning the liver. I even go on this. I do, there are 3-step systems where you can do a liver
Yes.
cleanse, and then a kidney cleanse, and then your lung cleanse, right? So you always start with the liver. That's the foundation, as you
Always.
said.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up to the other parts of the body. So, it's great though, now into 2020, that we have all these amazing tools and remedies for us and our pets. So that's really important. Sorry, Mimi, you probably hear someone outside.
They're out
Ignore.
there. I love it. Usually Maggie or Cloud pop up and they're like, hello, I'm here. Because our fur babies, they're part of us. They're an extension of us. And I love how, I really want people to understand this too. And I'd love if you chime in here, but people forget that our animals are so intuitive. And I want to share this funny story, because I've had a lot of these, they come and go behind me, lights here, but I see them all over my house. And I noticed that my one dog that had passed was in my home. And Maggie, my little cat, she was like 3. She was running around, like looking up, and she's playing, right? She's jumping, she's playing. And I was like, Megs, what are you looking at? I noticed it was the energy of the dog from, even 20 years ago that passed. And it was so crazy. And people so often forget that when you're cats and dogs, they see everything. They see the aura of the people. They see the energy, just like babies. You know how cats and dogs look at people and they're like, or they run away. I'm like, pay attention, because they're also communicating with you that, you might want to check that person out a little bit more, but they see spirit all the time. And my kitty's been playing stop, because the energy, I see it go through, and she's like playing, jumping, having fun, and then she rests. And then when it comes back up again, and she literally running up and down stairs, doing somersaults. And then when you see the energy dissipate, she goes and rests again. Like, I don't think people understand how incredibly intuitive their animals are. Like, they will tell you, watch your, like, you must have noticed that when you take the dogs out, even to a park, or when they're around other people, even the cats, how their behavior changes based on external people coming in their field.
It's interesting, and you're right. I've seen that a lot. In fact, I've had, over the years, I've had many animals pass naturally in my home, and unfortunately last year, two of them passed, and you never know, because sometimes, like us too, they have heart conditions, and they have
Yeah.
things that will take them down sooner than they should be going. And that's why it's important to always monitor your animal, and if you can afford to take them at least once a year to the veterinarian, that would be nice, to check their heartbeats. They're just like us, right? Our physicals. So dogs need physicals. I know I'm veering away from what you're talking about, but I know I went to
Okay.
the passing away thing for a second.
Yeah.
But I feel, and I felt for a long time, that my Ollie and Katie and I were here, and Sadie and all of them, right? So I think it's super amazing that they do. It's also what you believe, right?
Yeah.
But based on people, you're right. Sometimes the dogs, or even the cats, but mostly the dogs, as we go out a lot, will react to somebody. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. They just might have a different energy or a different smell. I think it's mostly the smell that animals react to, because their sense of smell is amazingly acute and
Yeah.
extremely, like, Katie used to be able to smell a chicken bone down the street. Like, seriously, she'd make the beeline right to that bone, and I'd be like, whoa. And it's not even alive, like, it's like sitting there
Yeah.
for a while, but they smell it and they go for it. So I think if there's sometimes, maybe homeless people that smell a little like more pungent than other people, or different colors as well trigger them, right? They say that they're colorblind, but I am completely convinced that they're not. I definitely think that they see colors, because I know that when friends' cars, they know, like my best friends that know my animals, and then they'll see the car and they'll know it's that car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you know that?
Yeah.
So I think all of their senses are extremely acute, and they definitely see and pick up everything that is around us. Yes.
Yeah.
And the more you get them out there, and the more you train them, because I've always believed in educating and socializing my dogs. And that doesn't necessarily mean standing in a dog park with other dogs, because they were smaller dogs. They didn't like it so much, but we were always out, and there were always people around us. And of course, I have my retail stores. So,
Yeah.
dogs and cats and people come in all the time. So it's great. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And it is. But again, I love how, if we're in tune with our animals, we can pick up a lot of other things going on in our environment. And even I've noticed sometimes with people, if their animals are acting out, you can see, I'm like, well, you actually need to clean up your house, like physically, energetically. There's things sometimes that can also disturb them, but they let us know. It's really good. What are some of the, as I said, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenging winter, because the energies of the planet are going to get stronger, and then the people are waking up. So basically, people are waking up more, and we're going to have to change a lot of perceptions. So when we look at our animals, because there are going to be higher stress points in humans, so you say, okay, take them out. What were some of the, maybe the joys you saw this year with people and their animals in the transition, and some of the pitfalls? Because it really is like, this is really pivotal time for humanity, and the animals are working, like, people don't understand. I see it energetically, they're working harder than ever before to
Yeah.
help their owners get rid of their stress, wake up. Like, if people could see how hard these animals, like, their vibrations are changing faster, like every day, than ours, and they're doing it to help us. So how can we help them more? Like, you see all these animals, you've groomed them, you've got clothes for them. Like, what I would love to know, what the common factor you're seeing is. Like, I wish people would really maybe make a shift in this thought or this perception to help their babies, their fur babies?
Ah, okay. This is a good one. This is a trigger question for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think people need to adjust their mentality and their mindset to realize how intelligent our animals are. And
Yeah.
that is the most important thing ever. There has to be a sense of respect and trust that works both ways between the animal and the person. You have to, as a cat or a dog owner, you have to make sure that your animal is not neglected and your animal is educated. This is the most important thing. This is when and why do I say this? It's because every day when I watch people walking their dogs on a leash and that they might take them to the dog park to play with their animals, and I see how it's a human who owns an animal. It is not a human which is living symbiotically, energetically, respectfully, and trustworthily, is that a word, with their animal.
Yeah.
So, and the fear, and again, it's fear based, like just like COVID is fear
Very.
based, right?
Yes.
So the fear of losing your animal, not trusting your animal, thinking that it's not going to be trainable. So many times I hear, oh my God, your dogs are so well behaved. We're in a store, mine would be running around everywhere. That's probably because it needs more exercise. That's probably because you're not telling it to settle down. So, again, it's like in 3 days, I can teach a dog to do just about anything. Okay. And so people have to understand that when you're giving time to that animal, and again, now being a great time to do so, you can create a magical connection between them. You can even communicate with them. You can learn to communicate with your animal where you are listening to them, where you're actually learning from them, right? Because they have senses that we don't have. And it's such a joy being around these creatures that are so, like they're just in tune with so much, even when you don't think they're in tune, they're listening, right? Even when you think they're sleeping, they're really not. And I think through COVID too, and any other time, one must be definitely 100% careful that one's addictions do not get in the way with proper pet ownership. And I know that it's hard. We're all going through a really tough time now. But remember, again, going back to always being your higher self and allowing your animal to be, and giving that respect, time, and consideration. So, like, for example, if just remember that the dog always needs to go out. Okay. So, you have to kind of put your stuff aside and make time for that beautiful little creature that loves you so much, no matter what. Even if you're running late for a dinner, you still have to take care of your dog or your cat or whatever have you. Never leave your dog for copious amounts of hours alone. I really find now, especially, this is I think a great tip, a lot in the condos, even when you have to go out or if you do have to go to work still, there are so many people, elderly and young, of any age really, that are in the building that are not busy. Put a little sign up in your building that says, hi, I have an amazing dog that needs some company during the day. Does anyone want a visitor for a few hours a day? How wonderful is that? Form that community, form the connection with the people around you, right? So I think that's a super, super important thing to do
I
anytime.
love that. That's a great tip. And what I also love is I like to teach that we have to remove the energy of this authoritative figure all the time,
The
so if
control.
you see something as authoritative, then it's controlling, and it affects your energetic field, right? And even how we act. And I love you said that, because you're right. So many people look at it as that old way of,
Pet
master
ownership.
servant. It's like, I'm the master and you're the dog, so I'm the master, you're the servant. And I love you said this, because it's not true. And you have this down pat. I say to anyone, because I want to talk about Neopause for a minute. You have this down pat. You treat them like how you want to be treated, and that is why you said it very well. That's why they just kind of follow you along. And it's interesting, because I know you've had this problem, especially in the city. People look at you like, you don't have your dog on a leash, you're a bad owner. But no, they have these, just like what's going on in the world right now, all this misinformation and misinterpreted information, because
Misalignment.
it's all misaligned, because you just train, they listen to you, they respect you, they know where mommy is, they follow you. Whereas they're all, you can see all that judgment, right? That if you don't have them on a leash and you haven't done this, then you're not doing something right, because you're not following the rules.
Yeah, I'm
It's a
not
rule
following
thing.
the law.
Yeah.
I
You're not
know.
following the rules. Yeah. What do you say about that?
Uh, that's a
Because
really
it is a
hot,
lot.
that's a hot topic.
It is a hot doubt, because it's a lot of judgment, right? And it's a lot of judgment based on misinformation around respecting how intelligent these little creatures are, and these beautiful beings and these fur babies. Like that goes right into the authoritative, like master servant. It's exactly right there. And that's why that energy is so
Yeah.
strong.
So, okay, let's talk about that for a second. A lot of the times, I know a lot of people have control issues. Okay, you have them. Relationships know that you have them. Your dogs
Yeah.
and animals know that everyone around you knows that you have them. It's okay to be in control of your life and to do the things that you need to do to make it work. That's very important. Okay, so one must have an organizational.
Yeah.
But to think that it's okay to take out your control issues on the animals or your anger issues on the animals is not okay. Just
Agree.
like, and I'm going to go touch back on something that we talked about earlier, because just like,
Yeah.
it's okay to not be the best animal owner, just like it's okay not to be the best relationship person, because we are here to evolve and to grow. Okay, so we are presented things that help us do that. And if that animal is going to sacrifice part of its life to teach you that, XYZ is not okay, then that's okay too. Okay, that's their mission for us. We're all here
Yeah.
to grow and help each other and sacrifice things for each other to learn, right? And to evolve. So as long as we can evolve, as long as we learn, as long as we're conscientious about what is happening and what we need to do to be better, that's all that I'm saying. We all make mistakes, okay? So there are always things that will happen irrelevant to how well you take care of your dog, how well you protect yourself with a mask, how well you do everything. You might get COVID, you might do this, your dog might run across the road. It is possible. The point is to be the most understanding, accepting, evolutionary person that you can be by just being as intelligent as you can be, not so fearful, not so controlling all the time. It's okay. You could say it's just okay. Everything's just okay. Things have to flow. They have to flow. It's not okay to always have your dog on a leash. It needs to run. I see that so many times at the beach. We're at the beaches, everyone aid lately, especially because the police have been out more, okay, because of
Yeah.
COVID. So the bylaw officers have been everywhere and people are terrified to get a ticket. They can't afford to do it. So again, these little animals are suffering. Okay, so if you're worried about that, that's fine, because we have to respect our communities and people around us, and I get that. Then make sure to take it to an off-leash park or to a park that doesn't have a lot of people, where it can run and be a dog. You know what I mean? They need to smell, they need to chase, they need to run. Their heart needs to keep moving. This is all
Yeah.
I'm saying, right? So I'm not
I
saying walk your dogs off leash. I don't, that's irrelevant to the point, okay? The city's becoming busier. There is more danger out there. There's construction everywhere. So maybe you don't want to do that, okay? But just give it the equal opportunity time to just run and be free every day. That's all.
how it would normally be. I love that, and I love, because the more little tips we have with all of our fur babies, the more it's going to help. And they can be great to get through anything. We all know that. Like, what do we do if we have a bad day? We go and we hug our fur babies. I want to talk a little bit about Neopause, because I know I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get to the top of the hour here. And then I'm going to be like, okay, but Neopause, tell us a little bit about Neopause and the creation of it. And I know you go back and forth between Canada and the US. You have places in both spaces. And where is that evolving to? And tell us a little bit, so people listening know a little bit about Neopause. 'Cause I love
Okay, before just you said something about hugging, and it was funny because I was just thinking, oh, I want to tell people about this chemical that comes out in the animals and people that makes us feel so good when we hug each other, and it's called oxytocin. Okay, so there's an oxytocin chemical that you feel, and that's that love. Okay, so that's really important. So of course, hug, all the time. If you can't hug a person, hug your animal for sure. I do it at least 50 times a day.
Oh, me too. I'm always like, oh, and then I always say to people, it's so funny because, well, and cats, like cats, especially, well, they all do it, your animals, but cats purring is the same frequency of the healing of the body. So that's why everyone's like, why is my cat always on me when I'm sick? I'm like, because they know they're helping you get better. Yeah, I
It's
love it.
beautiful. And then there's a chemical called cortisol, and that also relieves stress in our bodies. Okay, so that's also a great thing. And just to say that the more harmonious and the more healthy um, your pet and your relationship is with either your animal or other people, the happier you are, right? When there's disharmony, we always feel sad, right? So that's why it's important for us to try our best to evolve to this other level of harmony and happiness. Okay, so
And like you
that's
said,
really important.
be kind to yourself when you're learning. Just keep getting information, applying, like when you're
Okay,
learning with
baby.
your pets, be kind because you gotta learn, right? We're all growing, we're always
Yeah,
evolving and learning things. So,
yeah. It's good. It's good. It's good. Okay, so Neopause happened because I got a dog from Mexico on one of my buying trips. At the time, I was importing and exporting um, designer dishware that I created in Mexico from Mexico. And so that was the first business. And then I found Mex, and it was the love. He was the love of my life. I swear, I know the feeling of getting that puppy because he was actually let me think. Yeah, the only puppy that I got because every other dog came to me as a rescue. So they were already older, but so I know how, oh my gosh.
yeah.
So, yeah, sorry. I'm just like remembering we were in Mexico and he was so cute. One time we were sitting in a restaurant. He was so hot. He was like 8 weeks old. He put his paws in the Corona bucket, the water bucket like this. It was amazing. He just knew how to cool down. See, they're just so intelligent. He was uber intelligent. This dog was just like from another planet. So he was this albino sheepdog, right? So he had more white, he had pink around his eyes. I didn't know what he was when I got him. It was just one of those, whoa, like that, drawn to him. And I thought he was a husky, to be honest with you. And I always loved, huskies, shepherds. Anyway, so when we came home, 6 months later, I started running with him because I was very athletic. And then we started rollerblading. So he would run beside the blades and, we would go through the city. And all of a sudden his paws would, get bloody. And I would be like, oh my gosh, how come there are no running shoes for dogs? So that's how Neo-Paws started. I had that retail and store and restaurant in Yorkville at the time. And I was kind of realizing that even though I had a degree in hotel and food and beverage management, I was over the having a restaurant thing. I needed to, and I was also over carrying 40-pound, 50-pound boxes of dishware into my warehouse, all the time because, the breakables and this. So I was like, oh, I can make rubber dog shoes and they'll never break. And, it's all
So
good.
it's like
And
for
that's what
people
happened. I used the athletic,
I just want to ask you quickly though, so people know, because it's important. You said his
Trace, are
paws
you
were,
there?
yeah. Did you freeze again? I know it
Yeah.
was freezing
You're
out.
cutting out a little bit. Are you
So
there?
your side was like kind of going, well, class to clear the interference. I just wanted to ask, so you said his paws were bleeding. What was causing that? Because I think a lot of people have that issue with their dog and they don't understand why. Was it just the stuff on the road? Was it salt? Was it dirt? What was it that was causing that? Oh, I think we froze a little bit. This happens sometimes. We'll just make sure she can come back. And I know this happens. A lot of times too. I've seen this with your cats and your dogs and your animals where we don't want to see them hurt. We don't want to see them get injured. We don't want to see them, not feeling well. And I know with Ronnie, with the Neopause, like she's saying, she's just going to log back on here. Oh, there she came back here. It's just saying that with what causes the pain in our animals, because we don't want to see that pain. Did you get back on there? I know it happens. It's live. Here we go. She could just unmute herself there and we will look back on. Gremlins, Mercury retrograde. I don't know. Somebody told me it was Mercury retrograde not too long ago. And we have energy that
There we
is
go.
constantly, there we go, interfering. I was asking before you froze there. Don't worry, that
Hold on, let
happened.
me see. Do you
That,
think it's my internet connection? It does this sometimes.
yeah, it's okay. Don't even worry about it. We just keep on going.
It says connected. It seems everything's okay here, but okay, let's
You're,
try again. It'll pass. It's a momentary.
we're just moving and shifting. I know it happens. So with the animals and their feet when they're starting to bleed like that, what's the number one reason that happens? Oh, I see we've lost some people. That happens. Away we go. All right. Well, let's actually clean up some of the energy. We'll clean up some of the space. We'll clean up all that happens here and just thank that hand of God of an increase of clarity and restoration for your animals. If you have your animals, I'll give you guys a good tip. A lot of times, energetically, the animals can do a good clearing. So if you're seeing the video or you're listening, I'll do it both ways, depending on how you're listening later. If you keep your hand under the belly of the animal and you put your hand on the top of the forehead and just command the residual energy to come out of your animal. So you actually pull your hand down the spine and out the tail. Which happens is their spinal cord, just like humans, will hold a lot of information that is stuck in their system. So it's really good to give your animals a very good energetic clean out. So always the one hand under the belly, the other hand on the top, all the way down their spine, out their tails. And you just brush that animal all the way through. And it's like no different than you're petting them. But if you have that conscious awareness to just keep pulling that energy off the animal, and any blocks or resistance or any energy that gets stuck in there from the day from people that you don't even know about or things from you, it just gives them a great shift. It gives them a great transformation. So I love it. We'll just see if we got Ronnie back here. If she was able to come back on, we'll just unmute her and we'll be able to unmute that and just ask. There we go. All good. It happens.
Okay.
Don't worry. I was asking you, I was just showing them how to clean their animals so we can get that in. What causes the paws to go bloody like that? Like if people are looking at their dogs and going, "Oh my gosh,
You
their
know,
feet are
it's the abrasive surfaces.
okay."
Can you hear me, T?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, okay. So whether it's coral, around the water, it could be zebra mussels in the lakes, it could be rocks, concrete, cement. When I see the wear on the bottom of our rubber soles, which are like the top rubber ever, I'm like, wow, this could be your dog's paws. People used to come to the trade shows and with blisters, like these quarter-sized blisters on their dog's paws and didn't even realize the dogs had it. So again, so it started with that thinking running wise, and then I realized having the dog over the winter that there was salt on the roads, right, and the ice and all that also damages, and licking the dogs, where they lick their paws, if you don't have shoes on, they're licking the chemical. You definitely don't want them to be licking chemical. Okay.
No. Yeah. That can be really, really challenging if they're licking the chemicals and those are getting into their system. It's just kind of like the same thing as if we as humans, you go out and maybe you've picked up something that doesn't have hasn't been washed or it hasn't been cleaned. It's not coming out of the organic soil, and that's one of the things as well. I know we've had some technical difficulties today. It does happen, so we'll just carry on. So all right, while we, we wait for the other side to come back through. But it's really important, like I was saying earlier too, with cleaning your animals energetically. Also know that your animals will carry residual energy all day long. And as their vibration shifting right now, it is important that as you're strengthening your vibration, if you do the work that I always teach in our community, you can do that same work on your animals. You can do the exact same thing on your animals that you do on yourself. So it's really important. So, all
You
right.
did that. You did that for my animals. Remember when we were working together a lot and you were, with all the friends and animals, and that's really amazing. You have to do the energy work, right? And just as a side note off of Neopause for a second, but it's very important that people have an animal communicator.
Yeah.
So if you do not know how to communicate with your animals, if you don't feel that you know how to do that, you can actually learn how to do that. So you can, like, we're all healers and we're all, very special people. We just have to bring that out in ourselves. Um, but an animal communicator, especially with rescue animals, is extremely important because they can find out what your dog is or your animal cat is feeling, um,
Yeah.
for you, and break that energy. I
Yeah.
went through this incredible process right now
Yeah.
with a friend of mine who his partner.
Oh, there we go again. Animal. There's some great people in the States that with animal communicating that I've been connecting with. And, maybe that would be something that we could do for sure. And, move towards that and understand how that can move. So if you have a problem with anybody if you've got a rescue or you have information there that's happening, then definitely it's important to know if you don't know what's going on with the dog or you don't know with the cat. I know I rescued Cloud, and again, not knowing where he came from, I just knew he was in a kill shelter. And then I spent time with him, and because I see, feel, and hear, I was able to see what was going on and help him. And we were able to move him through into our family a lot better. And so it's important, and maybe we'll explore some more of that. I know with some of the connections we've made in the States to help you better understand your animals and what they're doing and why they're acting that way. So a lot of times I used to work with a woman who, her dog, it was interesting, when the cleaners would come in, the dog was so gentle, and then the dog would get very angry and growl a lot. And she's like, that's so weird. Like, she felt bad for the cleaners when they would come into the post house. And we actually did some research and some digging. And what we found out was that the previous owner, so we had to go back, and it was documented because of the way it ended up at the humane center. And the previous owner unfortunately had been quite abusive to her dog, which was Maggie dog, funny. And that happened. And then so she had an understanding that her dog was just recognizing a similar kind of person, and it wasn't against those people, it was just that's what was happening. So she was able to actually work on that and shift it, and really like do some good training to make sure that her animal could get over that trauma, could get over that abuse. So thank you, God. So just like I was saying how humans can do it, you can do this with your animal. And then as that actually worked and shifted through, then she stopped reacting, to different that same kind of person. When they come through, she'd stop reacting. So it was just a trauma. It's a memory, and that's what it is, and that's what happens. And so you have to understand that if you've rescued an animal, just like you, if you go through a trauma or you have an issue that's come up, it's the same thing, right? Your animal will remember it. Your animal can have anxiety. And it's really important right now because a lot of people are feeling traumatized of what's going on in the world. And that's why I have so many free resources for you at tracylclark.com to help you shift. But you got to take action, guys. You got to listen and say, what's the tip I can take? We just did this incredible weekend event, and all the tips you can take. How can you go through it? How can you shift? And if you can apply those tools in your life, you'll change your life. Like, that's how I changed my life. I changed it by doing it every day and really, making sure that I was on point. And it's a way of life, but you can apply that to your animals. So I apply that to Cloud. I apply that to Maggie, I apply that to all the animals. And so we all work energetically in tandem in frequency. And one of the great things about animals, people forget, if you look out into the nature, you look out into the world, is that they don't judge, and they're not in any form of judgment whatsoever. So they are just accepting, and this is how they're showing us as humans how we need to be accepting of each other, and we need to get out of judgment, and we need to get out of all of this space that is just locking humanity up. So you can learn a lot from your animals on how they treat each other, and they're respectful and they honor each other no matter who they are. I always say a blue bird's not all mad at the red bird. You know, they're just loving each other and celebrating each other's uniqueness. And it's really, really important. I know we've had some technical difficulties, and I know we're getting to the top of the hour. So Ronnie, quickly, if you can, and you came back, are you able to just quickly tell us, we've got about 3 minutes here, I think, of Neopause and where they can find you and why Neopause is so important?
Thanks, T. Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening. Very strange, but I am back.
All right, no worries.
I'm glad you are always able to lead the discussion with your wonderful tips and how to heal you, yourself, and other people. But you know, it's funny. I just want to touch upon what you just said. But sometimes, you know, like when you get this new puppy, which we have to talk about, by the way, you will find maybe the cat and the dog might fight together, or might, you know, and that's okay too, because people do that as well, right? So that whole, sometimes dogs can get a little aggressive with each other, and that's okay too. So that's it's an okay thing, and it just shows that not everything is always symbiotically the same, and not everything will always get along. It's just how you resolve it that's the most important thing, right? So it's about teaching your dog tips and tricks to just be calmer and you know, better with, and not as aggressive, right? So it's good. So so anyway, you can go to neopaws.com, neopaws.com, and we're you mentioned me being in Canada and US and how that's going to work. Yes, well, things have definitely been changing for me here in Canada. I still have a warehouse and a store attached to that. So once we move from Dundas and River, we'll be at Pape and Cosburn. So that's always a good thing. And I mean, online is golden, right? I mean, everything's going online. But I have to say though, sorry, there's nothing coming in for a fitting.
Yeah, I just want to say, the online though, they can, everything, if they're having problems, they can email you to get the fittings and the size, and not to worry, you can help them through that.
Yeah, because our customer service, we call every customer that the orders come in from. Because we've been doing this for almost 30 years, it's amazing, because I know I can, you know, as soon as an order comes in and we see the breed and the weight of the dog and what they've ordered and what they need it for, whether it's orthopedic or this or that, how the shoe fits. I mean, it's very important. We thrive on customer service. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. People are very happy that we can call them. Sometimes they're bothered that I'm telling them that they ordered the wrong size, but it's okay. Don't worry.
You're making sure you know what you're dealing with. I know we have 1 minute left. What is 1 minute left? And then, okay, so we know where to find you. What is something you want to leave with people to think about as we head through the winter with what's unfolding right now with them and their pets? What would be the one thing?
You know, everything that we discussed. And also, if you want some food tips, I have Healthy Cooking with Ro. I just started that on YouTube. So it's called Healthy Cooking with Ro for you and your pet. It's across the internet now. I just started that a few months ago, and that's going to be really great. I'm going to have you on the show, T, with your puppy, right? Cooking away with me. I'll teach you all about that. So yeah. So just remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your animals. That's all. And give them the best life, including yourself. Love yourself enough, like you're going to love the animal, and just be, you know, beautifully harmonious, and really try, even when it's really hard. I know we're all going through such a tough time. So, you know, just mutual respect and understanding for both, right? And be responsible.
I love it. And you're going to send me the link so we can put it in the show notes below. We'll put it onto the YouTube and everything so you can find it. And I love that you're doing Healthy Cooking with Ro. I love it. And as always, like, we're live, and you know what? Stuff happens, guys. And I love that stuff happened today, because it shows you with your animals, it's okay. We just keep going. It's life. You know, nothing's going to be perfect. That is not how life is. Life is about learning and a journey. I am so happy that, Ro, you were able to join us today. I am so happy for all of our listeners, everybody, past, present, and future. Check Neopause out, and we will see you next week right here on the Tracy L. Clark Show, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. And also don't forget tracylclark.com to get your free membership, so you can actually learn some tips to also get you through this winter. All right. Love you guys. Have an incredible week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Tracy L. Clark Show with me, Tracy L., where I teach you how to connect to the God consciousness so you can unlock your superpowers and connect at light speed and live your extraordinary life. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where together we will unlock the secrets of your body and your life. As the founder of the Body Regeneration Academy, I, Tracy Al, will provide you with the insight and simple tools you can apply right now in your life to move you forward and leave the past in the dust. To join the Body Regeneration TLC Online Academy, make sure you check me out at tracyalclark.com.